Guys. We're going to be doing our solar system part 2. This is actually lesson 3. And we want to begin by reviewing about what we've already learned. So we have learned about how many planets there are in the solar system. 8. How do you remember the order of our planets? In my classroom, we say, "My very energetic mother just sent us nachos." And that helps us remember the planets in the order from the sun. What other celestial bodies can be found in our solar system beside the sun and the planets? There are dwarf planets, comets, asteroids, meteoroids, moons. What is the difference between a meteoroid, a meteorite, and a meteor? Depends on where they are in space. So, a meteoroid is a piece of space debris. When it enters a planet's atmosphere, it's called a meteor, and if it reaches the planet's surface without burning up, it's called a meteorite. What is a dwarf planet? Well, it is a spherical celestial body that orbits the sun, but has not cleared its orbit of space debris. And what is the atmosphere of a planet, and how does it affect the planet? Well, an atmosphere is like a blanket of gas that surrounds the planet, and it holds in heat and keeps the planet at a steadier temperature. So listen carefully today to find out which planets in our solar system, other than the Earth, have an atmosphere and how that atmosphere affects the characteristics of the planet. Would you like to take an out of this world trip? Over the next few days, we're going to go on an exciting tour of space in our very own classroom spaceship. The only luggage you will need to take with you on this adventure is your imagination. Are you ready? Let's buckle up and get ready for takeoff. We will start by traveling to the planet that is closest to the sun, Mercury. As we approach the planet, you will see many craters on the surface. These are the result of hundreds of meteoroids hitting the surface of the planet. You will probably notice right away how small it is compared to our planet Earth. At 1/3 the diameter of the Earth, Mercury is the smallest planet in our solar system. It's certainly hot here. Our spaceship is reading the surface temperature as being 750 degrees Fahrenheit. Whoa, water boils at 212 degrees Fahrenheit, so 750 degrees Fahrenheit is a lot hotter than boiling water. The side of Mercury that is facing the sun is very hot. But the side of the planet that is facing away from the sun, the dark side of Mercury, is frigid. It's freezing. It drops to negative 300 degrees Fahrenheit. Brr! It's hard to imagine being as cold as 300 degrees below zero. You might have guessed that Mercury gets very hot during the day because it is so close to the sun. But why does it get so cold at night? Well, it's because Mercury has no real atmosphere. Even though there are occasionally a few gas particles around the planet, without a real atmosphere, there's nothing to trap the sun's heat to make it stay warm on the side of the planet that is not facing the sun. The smallest planet in our solar system, Mercury, makes its orbit very quickly around the sun. One planetary year on Mercury is only 88 Earth days. That means it only takes Mercury 88 Earth days to orbit the sun one time. Even though Mercury's years are very short, it rotates very slowly on its axis. So its days are very long. One day on Mercury only takes about 58 Earth days. How would you like to have the sun set and have it stay dark for about a month's worth of Earth days? before the sun rises again. Whew, good thing it's time to leave Mercury and head on for the second planet from the sun in our solar system. You know what it is, right? Venus. The first thing you'll notice about Venus is that besides being Earth's closest neighbor, it is practically the same size as Earth. Like Earth, Venus also has an atmosphere. But unlike Earth, the atmosphere of Venus is made up of very thick gases, including lots of carbon dioxide. Venus's thick, cloudy atmosphere is also very dense, with 90 times the pressure or heaviness of Earth's atmosphere. Venus is actually hotter than Mercury, more than 850 degrees Fahrenheit. Venus is the hottest planet in our solar system. The reason it is hotter than Mercury is that Venus's atmosphere creates a greenhouse effect, which means its dense atmosphere acts like a very thick blanket, trapping the sun's heat at the surface of the planet. This causes the planet's surface temperature to rise because the heat can't easily escape into space. Planet 3. The next stop on our tour of the solar system is home, sweet home, Earth, the third planet from the sun. From way out here in space, it looks different from all the other planets. Planet Earth appears as a swirl of blue, white, and green thanks to our water-filled oceans, the clouds of our atmosphere, and the green of the plants growing on our planet. It looks bright and glowing and alive. We are very, very beautiful planet. Now, Earth is a rocky planet. It has one moon. It's the only known planet that supports life because of its placement, temperature, and atmosphere in space. Let's zoom past Earth and head toward the fourth planet from the sun. That's the red planet, Mars. Mars is the last of the four rocky planets in our solar system. As soon as you see it, you know why it's called the red planet, because it really is reddish. The red color is caused by the presence of rust in the surface rocks. Even though Mars is only half the size of Earth, it still takes about 24 hours for it to rotate on its axis. So a day on Mars is nearly the same length as a day on Earth. Like Earth, the red planet has an atmosphere and even polar ice caps made of frozen water. But the thing that may really catch your eye as we get closer to our solar systems is our solar system's tallest volcano, Olympus Mons, which is 3 times as high as Mount Everest, Earth's tallest mountain. That's right, Mars has the tallest volcano in our entire solar system, much larger than any we have here on planet Earth. Mars has a north pole, a south pole, and these polar parts of the planet receive the least direct sunlight. So that's where we're going to find polar ice caps. As we prepare to leave the Martian orbit, we will pass by its 2 moons, Phobos and Deimos. Why such funny names? Well, the planet Mars was named after the Roman god of war, Mars, who is also called Ares by the ancient Greeks. Phobos and Deimos are Ares' 2 sons. We'll have to go through the asteroid belt to get from Mars to Jupiter, the 5th planet up from the sun. The distance between Mars and Jupiter is more than 3 times the distance that we have traveled so far. Wow. Do you see Jupiter? There is no way you could miss it if you tried. Remember, Jupiter is the largest planet in our solar system, and it's absolutely gigantic. It is so big that more than 1,300 Earths could fit inside it. Did you know Jupiter has rings? Saturn is famous for its beautiful rings, but Jupiter has them too. In fact, all 4 of the gas giants in our solar system, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune, have rings though the rings are not visible in many images that you see of Jupiter, Uranus, and Neptune. Well, you may be wondering if we could land on the surface of Jupiter. Like the other gas giants, there is not a solid surface to land on, just hundreds of miles of gas, below which is a sea of liquid hydrogen. Besides, Jupiter's atmosphere is extremely cold, stormy, and windy. These storms are what give Jupiter that marbled appearance. Do you see that giant spot on its side? That's called the Great Red Spot. It is a gigantic storm. It's like a hurricane. It's bigger than the entire Earth. In fact, 3 Earths could usually sit right across that. There's no way we could land a spaceship there. Well, let's take a look at some of Jupiter's moons. Scientists have discovered that there are more than 60 moons so far, so there are many to choose from. Here are 4 moons that were discovered by Galileo Galilei, a scientist you will hear more about later. Their names are Callisto, Ganymede, Io, and Europa. Made of materials ranging from frozen ice to molten or melted rock, these natural satellites have amazing sights, which include frozen oceans and volcanoes. Are you ready to head to the next planet? Saturn, here we come. The distance we must travel to get to the 6th planet from the sun in the solar system, Saturn, is about the same distance it took us to get from Mars to Jupiter. It is far. Like Jupiter, Saturn is another gas giant, and its atmosphere has winds that are even stronger than hurricane winds on Earth. But what may take your breath away is the sight of the rings. They are absolutely beautiful. You might be surprised to learn that Saturn's rings aren't solid. They're made up of millions of pieces of rock and ice. Astronomers believe that the debris in some of Saturn's rings is held in place by a combination of the pull from Saturn and the pull from some of Saturn's many moons. The moons that are believed to help hold some of the Saturn's outermost rings in place are called shepherd moons. It's time to head to the 7th planet. The 7th planet in our solar system is Uranus. If you thought the trip between Jupiter and Saturn was far, you might want to just sit back and take a nap, because the space between the planets gets bigger out here where the gas giants are. Uranus is about twice as far from the sun as Saturn is. No wonder astronomers didn't discover Uranus until after the telescope was invented. It's a long way away from Earth. It took the NASA spacecraft Voyager 2 12 years to get to Uranus from Earth. Good thing our special classroom spaceship goes faster than Voyager 2, or we'd be out here in space for a really long time. As we approach Uranus, you may be wondering why it appears to be rolling on its side. The poles of Uranus are in a different position than the poles of the other planets. Uranus's axis is tilted a lot more to the side than the other planets in our solar system. Many scientists think the axis became so far tilted during a collision that happened when the solar system was forming. Like the other gas giants, Uranus also has rings and moons, though the rings are not easy to see. After a long trip from Saturn to Uranus, you may be wondering how far the next planet is. Well, it's just a little farther than the last leg of our trip from Saturn to Uranus, and that is saying a lot. It is very far. A leg of a trip is a section of a trip. So if the last leg of a trip, you're referring to the last little bit of your trip. Finally, we have arrived. Ooh, look how pretty. at the last planet, eighth from the sun in our solar system, Neptune. Even though astronomers knew a celestial object was there before they identified it, the planet Neptune was discovered fewer than 200 years ago in 1846. It was the last of the four gas giants in our solar system. Neptune has two rings around it that are hard to see, many fewer than Saturn. Scientists don't know as much about Neptune as they do about some of the other planets because it's hard to study because it's so far away. Astronomers think Neptune has at least 13 moons. Like Jupiter, Saturn, and Uranus, Neptune does not have a solid surface to land on, making it a bad place for spaceship landings. Well, beyond Neptune, farther out in space, objects beyond our 8 planets are called trans-Neptunian. Here is where we find the dwarf planet Pluto. There are many other trans-Neptunian celestial bodies in our solar system, even farther away than Pluto, that astronomers are only beginning to discover. The distances in space between these objects are astronomical. And beyond our solar system, there's a whole neighborhood of stars. And beyond that neighborhood of stars, there are billions of other neighborhoods of stars. Whole universe out there just waiting for us to learn more about. So Pluto, this is Pluto. This one's Pluto. Sorry. This one is Pluto. I recognize that big bright spot. Some things about Pluto: it's the most famous dwarf planet because it was considered to be a major planet until 2006 when it was reclassified. It's small. It's not clear to its orbit of most other objects, and it's very, very far away. Astronomical just means gigantically huge, far away. Let's ask a couple questions about what we read about today. So, what are some facts that scientists know about Mercury? It rotates slowly. Its planetary year is 88 Earth days, and its day length is 58 Earth days. It has a rocky terrain with many craters. It has no real atmosphere. It's very hot on the side facing the sun and frigid on the dark side. It is the closest planet to the sun. So, how does a planet's atmosphere act like a greenhouse? Like a greenhouse, the atmosphere traps the heat from the sun and warms the planet. Which planets did we hear about today that actually have atmospheres dense enough to have a greenhouse effect? 2 of them, Venus and Earth. Compare and contrast the sister planets, Earth and Venus. How are they similar? They are the second and third planets from the sun. They both have atmospheres that are dense enough to help warm the planet. They're a similar size. How are they different? Well, Venus's atmosphere is much denser, thicker than the Earth's. Venus is also hotter than Earth, and we do not know of living things on Venus. What are some facts scientists know about Mars? It's covered with reddish, dusty soil, has a very thin atmosphere. It does have polar ice caps. It's about half the size of Earth. It is the fourth planet from the sun. It has 2 moons or satellites named Phobos and Deimos. So describe the planet Jupiter. Jupiter is a gas giant far away from the sun. Its atmosphere is very stormy and constantly moving. It has rings that are hard to see. It has more than 60 moons. It is the 5th planet from the sun. And what is that great red spot on Jupiter? It's a gigantic storm on the surface of the planet. Compare and contrast Saturn and Neptune. How are they similar? Well, they are both gas giants far from the sun. They both have rings and moons. And so how are they different? Well, Saturn is much bigger than Neptune. We have known about Saturn much longer than we've known about Neptune. Saturn's rings are very much more visible. They are the sixth and seventh planets from the sun. What characteristics make Uranus unique in our solar system? It is tipped very far to the side, so it looks like it is rolling rather than spinning. Why has Pluto been reclassified as a dwarf planet rather than a planet? Poor little Pluto. Scientists have made more discoveries and established new criteria for identifying a planet. Since Pluto has not yet cleared its orbit of debris, it is considered a dwarf planet. And other celestial bodies have been found of similar size, even larger than Pluto, way out in the trans-Newtonian part of our space solar system. What does the acronym NASA stand for? NASA, National Aeronautics and Space Administration. And what does NASA do? NASA is part of the United States government that has to do with space technology and exploration. You have learned that the sun is a constant source of heat and light. If all of the planets receive light and heat from the sun, why are the planets not all the same temperature? Many of the planets are too far away to be warmed very much by the sun. Venus and Earth are the only two inner planets that have enough of an atmosphere to trap that heat that reaches their surface, enabling them to keep the dark side of the planet warm.